That was a sick joke.
I was going to say the only sick joke here is Steve McKinnon.
That was...
The Auditor General dropped a bombshell report of $3.5 billion in wasteful spending. The Conservatives vetoed their own opposition motion of non-confidence. And strangest of all, the Liberals seem to be upset about it.
Let's take a look.
More proof today that this weak Prime Minister, has lost control of spending. The Auditor General reports that his government gave out $3.5 billion of so-called CEBA loans to companies that did not qualify, a total of 77,000 of them. That's 10% of all recipients. On top of that, they then gave a massive implementation contract to high-priced consultants at Accenture who cost $200 million and farmed out a lot of the work to Brazil. Isn't it more proof that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the corruption?
The Honourable Minister for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises.
Mr. Speaker, I find it ironic because for the member from the Mission, Maskey Fraser, actually sent me a letter advocating for CEBA loans to support a small business in his own riding. You see, Mr. Speaker, he understands the value of the CEBA loans because it was a lifeline for small businesses during an unprecedented time. And so we're going to continue to help support businesses, keep their doors open, keep their lights on, and keep their employees working. Mr. Speaker, I find it's unfortunate because yet this is another example of a letter that the Leader of the Opposition did not know about.
This is disgusting. The Liberals are doing it again. We spoke about this about a week and a half ago when the CBC decided to release the names of 17 members of the Conservative caucus, 17 Conservative MPs that wrote letters to the corresponding minister, Sean Fraser, regarding the Housing Accelerator Fund. So in a nutshell, how this works is it is an MP's job, regardless of what party they are in, to write to the ministers to access funds for their community. So in this case, you had 17 MPs who were writing the housing minister to access the Housing Accelerator Fund in order to bring that tax money back into their communities. This is a normal function of an MP's job. They are supposed to do this. What is not normal is how the Liberals are turning it around and making it seem something nefarious, that these Conservatives are going behind Pierre Poilievre's back in order to do this. No. MPs from every party are writing these ministers to request that tax money be spent in their communities. We're going to put a link to the video we did about this in the description because, again, this is a normal function of the MP's job, and the Liberals are the ones trying to twist this, make this partisan, and seem like the Conservatives are doing something nefarious.
Well, and here's the thing, right? So she's talking about, the CEBA loans and stuff like that. So it's obvious that the Liberals are going back in time, looking back through the mail now,
yes,
years, in order to find any evidence of Conservatives writing letters of support for funds that are being requested for their riding. And here's the thing. What they're implying is it's the Conservative people, the Conservative MPs are the ones that are spearheading these funding requests, which is completely false. What happens is, and we talk about in this video that Tanya is talking about, is someone from the community identifies a need or identifies a business case to apply for the funds from the government, and then they go around putting together the budget. They ask for letters of support from local community politicians like the mayor or the MPP or the MLA, depending on where you are. And they'll also ask their member of parliament. So the member of parliament doesn't have a horse in this race. All they're doing is writing a letter saying, yes, I support this application of funds, because that's their job, as Tanya said. And the Liberals will do it when the Conservatives are in government, and we will have nothing to say about that because that's their job. Okay, so even if the Liberals are fighting against all of these policies that the Conservatives are putting in, it is their job to write letters of support, and it would be disingenuous for us to then start calling out the Liberals for doing the exact same thing. But because the Liberals have literally nothing to hit the Conservatives over the head with, they are now literally playing dirty politics by going back through the mail and making these things public. And this is unprecedented.
Yeah, no government has done this before. Typically, these letters are very hard to find. We were able to find one example for our video, and that was after a lot of searching because they're private. Again, it's a normal function of the MP's job to write these letters to various ministers to request various types of funding that community is eligible for. What's wrong in all of this is that the Liberals are now going back through their mail and saying, oh, this one's from a Conservative MP, that one's from a Conservative MP, so is that one. And now they're misrepresenting this to the public. That's what's wrong here.
Well, and they're trying to gaslight it in implying that this letter was written recently, that they're going behind Pierre's back. And it is a flat out lie.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, our members champion their constituents who are eligible for assistance. Not 77,000 companies that should not have received the $3.5 billion in misspent dollars. All this while Canadians are starving. Today, the hunger report is out from Feed Ontario, and there have been 1 million Ontarians who lined up 7 million times at the food bank after this Prime Minister brought in a carbon tax on the truckers and farmers who bring us our food. When will they axe the tax?
The Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Social Development.
Mr. Speaker, of course, we thank Feed Ontario and the food banks across this country who do amazing work. Let me quote from the report that was just mentioned. In June 2022, those over the age of 75 received a permanent 10% increase in old age security alongside inflationary increases. After that change, the percentage of food bank visitors who were seniors began to decrease. This, in addition to the measures we put forward for families, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to deliver for Canadians while they oppose at every opportunity.
So this sounds like it could be manipulated math. If the percentage of seniors is decreasing, that could be due to the fact that the percentage of middle income families, so people our age and children, is increasing.
It's possible, but she also doesn't say what the percentage quote unquote decrease was. And it's kind of disgusting that she starts this by saying, oh, we're very grateful and appreciate all the work that the food banks do. Yeah, because you made them a hell of a lot more busy since you guys got into office. Holy crap.
We hear stories of food banks running out of food. We hear stories of food banks that are only able to help a family once per month. It's really not a good situation right now. 25% of Canadians are having to use the food bank, which corresponds with the percentage of Canadians who are currently living in poverty. That's a huge number. It was about 14%, I want to say, when Harper left office. It went down a little bit over COVID, well, because everybody was receiving CERB, and now it's just shot up to 25%. That's huge.
Well, and this isn't even talking about the $3.5 billion that was given to companies that were not eligible for these emergency loans in the first place. So, the pattern is here, folks. The Liberals cannot manage money.
No.
It is not in their DNA. They don't know how. Every single thing that they do, it leaks like a sieve. Millions upon billions of dollars, and their response is, oh well, we'll just spend more money. Like, this is why they have to go.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, over the last 5 years, food prices in Canada have increased 37% faster than in the United States. That gap opened after the introduction of the carbon tax, which this government now, with the NDP's help, wants to quadruple. The consequence is that in the last 4 years, food bank use in Ontario is up 86%, and 1 in 4 children go to school hungry, according to this government's own data. So why won't they axe this crazy plan to quadruple the carbon tax? In fact, why not axe the tax altogether?
the Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, yet another example of the Conservative leader talking about one thing and doing another. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to supporting children, we have been negotiating school food agreements that are helping actually 200,000 children across this country, and yet the Conservative leader is opposed to that. He talks about lowering taxes, but last week he made every single one of his MPs vote against a GST tax cut for Canadians. He also talks about wanting to hold an opposition day. But we gave him an opportunity today and he ran away from it. Mr. Speaker, that's what weakness looks like when it comes to leadership. Thank you.
So I'm actually glad Karina brought this up. The Liberals seem, disappointed that the Conservatives didn't actually agree with what was going on. So we tweeted this out earlier today, and it was rather surprising to us because shortly after proceedings started this morning, Karina Gold rose and rather giddily read the motion that she said, requesting unanimous consent, meaning it needs unanimous consent in order to pass, and essentially said that as of right now, they're going to adjourn the debates of both the question of privilege to produce the SCTC documents and the question of privilege that hasn't even been talked about yet, which is Stephen Anderson. And she then says that will allow the Leader of the Opposition to present his motion at noon. And then the privilege motion would resume or be adjourned until Wednesday. And then if they don't deal with it on Wednesday, which they wouldn't because it's been 8 weeks or whatever it is, then it would adjourn again on Thursday and then resume Friday. So then the Speaker asked for unanimous consent, and the Conservatives then said no. And the Liberals were beside themselves.
Yeah, you could hear like the upset in the House, and there was only a few of them in there. It was unreal.
And then Kevin Lamoureux stood up and was basically furious that the Conservatives were not going to present their motion of non-confidence in the government. So you have to ask, why would the Liberals be upset that the Conservatives are not going to put their motion of non-confidence forward? Now, I think it's all in the details of the motion itself, because they weren't adjourning the debate just for the motion. They were adjourning debate for the full 2 days. And then they were adjourning for the full day on Thursday as well. So I think the Liberals were planning on introducing some procedural shenanigans to try and do something else in the House that maybe it would have caused the Conservatives to lose control of the House, or maybe it was some other bill or motion that would have a negative effect on Canadians that we don't know about. So the theory is that the Conservatives got wind of this and then said, okay, fine. Nope, we're not going to be doing that. And we'll show you the video. You can see how ticked off Kevin Lamoureux is and how incredulous Karina Gold is. Check it out.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In light of the fact that the Leader of the Opposition has given notice of a motion for debate on the Conservative Opposition Day scheduled for today, I'd like to give him an opportunity to debate that motion. As such, I seek unanimous consent of the House for the following motion: that notwithstanding any standing order, special order, or usual practice of the House, that A, at noon today, the proceedings in relation to the debate on the motion in relation to the question of privilege standing in the name of the member for Regina Capel and the question of privilege standing in the name of the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes shall be deemed adjourned until Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, and B, if proceedings in relation to the debate on the motion in relation to the question of privilege standing in the name of the member for Regina Capel and the question of privilege standing in the name of the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes are not disposed of at the ordinary hour of daily adjournment on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, these proceedings shall be deemed adjourned until Friday, December 6th, 2024.
All those opposed to the Honourable Minister moving the motion will please say nay. There is not unanimous consent. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Leader of the Government to the House of Commons, rising on a point of order.
Speaker, I don't know why the Conservatives would deny leave in order to be able to debate the motion they said that they wanted to debate today.
That is sounding a lot like debate. Moving to orders of the day.
You can see the reaction from the Liberals. So as of this point, it's anyone's guess as to why this happened. But one thing we've learned from the Conservatives, they don't do things without a good reason.
Yeah, they're not the NDP.
They actually have a plan.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Just a few short years, the Prime Minister has lost control of the deficit of immigration and of our border. He gave us a 2,500% increase in the number of unprocessed refugee claims, and he still thinks that 3 million temporary residents are going to leave this country voluntarily. Canada is staring down the barrel at 25% tariffs thanks to his open border policies, his free drugs for everyone plan, and his economic vandalism. The Prime Minister can mitigate that all today. Where's the Canada First plan to keep our borders safe?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
Mr. Speaker, these people just aren't serious. She supports the Leader of the Opposition who sat idly by in government while they cut money to border enforcement at the Canada-U.S. borders, cut at the immigration refugee border. And for those of them that are saying this is ancient history, we proposed an asylum reform package in May, and you know what the Conservatives did and the clapping seals in the back did at the Finance Committee? They voted against it and voted it down. They can support us in our asylum reform if they so choose. I encourage them to do so.
Mark Miller looks like he just crawled out of bed.
He always looks like he just
No, but it's
crawled
like
out of bed.
worse than usual. Like his hair was completely disheveled, his tie was crooked. Like he just doesn't look like he's having a good time.
Well, I hope he isn't, but it's probably because he spends most of his time partying at Justin Trudeau's house and having the servants wait on them, hand and foot, rather than actually doing their jobs. But I find it so funny that Miller says, well, the Conservatives will say that this is ancient history, but we just proposed a motion in May. Time out. Okay, so 10 years, Mark, 10 years. And you're saying, but we just did something in May. 9 3/4 years later from when we got into power. See, we're fixing things. Are you kidding?
The Honourable Member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Speaker, for 8 consecutive years, food bank usage has risen in Ontario, a timeline that matches the corruption and incompetence of the NDP Liberal government. They caused the cost of living crisis, a crisis where even 25% of Ontarians who have jobs need to use the food bank. Canadians deserve relief from this cost of living crisis. So will the Prime Minister cancel his plans to quadruple the carbon tax and call a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Youth.
Well, great news, Mr. Speaker. Last week I was in PEI where we announced another province that has signed on to the National School Food Program. That's 184,000 kids this school year that will receive food at school. Almost 1.5 million more meals at school, Mr. Speaker, for a program that the Leader of the Opposition contends doesn't exist. I challenge him to ask those 184 children who are getting food at school. They'll school him, Mr. Speaker.
So I find this very peculiar in that the Liberals are going around talking about the school food program like it's in place, but it's not. This hasn't even passed the Senate yet. So how can you be announcing that people are signing on to a program that Pierre is correct doesn't exist yet?
Right. So this is Bill C-322, an act to develop a national framework to establish a school food program.
Not to establish it itself.
No, but the framework of it. It hasn't even finished going through the House of Commons. So it hasn't finished third reading, which means it has not passed along to the Senate. And because the House is still currently seized, it's not going anywhere. So why to Ryan's point, why are they signing up provinces to this framework when the bill isn't even through the House yet?
And that also means money isn't going to be allocated as well, because it has to be tied to legislation. So
there's no way that Bill C-322 is going to be through the House and finished and passed into law before the next election. No way. So the fact that the Liberals are throwing this in the Conservatives' faces, saying they don't support it, etc., I wouldn't support a losing horse either.
And how sad is this, that they're actually giving some people hope that their kids may, you know, be able to get some food at school because of all of the damage that the Liberals have done, yet they're coming in and saying, well, we're going to be giving lots of money to the school, so then your kid will be able to eat.
Right. And this is another example of the Liberals treating the symptom, not the cause. The cause of high food prices, in part, is the carbon tax. And instead of fixing that, they're going to make it higher. But then they're going to say, oh, you know that tax money that we took from you parents? Now we're going to give it back to you in the form of feeding your children at school, feeding them what we want, not what they want. Maybe it's nutritional, maybe it's not. We don't know. But it's, again, treating the symptom, not the cause.
And so for you voters out there, basically what they're doing is they're treating the well-being of your children and pulling on your heartstrings for your children. They're using that as a political football, and that ball isn't even going to get on the field by the next election. Right. So this is just disgusting.
The honourable member from Peterborough Kawartha.
Today, the truth will be revealed. The Conservatives have put forward a non-confidence motion using the quote from the NDP leader where he said the Prime Minister is greedy and anti-worker. So what will it be? Will the leader of the NDP sell out Canadians yet again, or has that Prime Minister made another backroom deal that puts both of their lust for power over the rights of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Seniors and for Labour.
I guess that member is back from announcing the housing projects in her riding that she voted against in this House of Commons. It is a joke, Mr. Speaker. It is a sick joke to watch these Conservatives line up behind this leader and his fake, false bravado, putting motions on the floor of this House. Then we ask them to debate those very motions. What do they say? No, Mr. Speaker. They refuse to debate their own motion. They will not debate help for Canadians. They will not debate tax cuts. They will not debate any support for Canadians in this House of Commons. This is a sick joke.
I'm sorry, but that was a sick joke.
I was going to say the only sick joke here is Steve McKinnon.
That was terrible. Like, he's trying to talk tough, and I don't even know what you would call that. I'm going to need some Q-tips after this. But anyway, yeah, why are you so offended? That's my question.
Well, I think that they were up to something, and that's exactly what the Conservatives must have thought, and that's why they said that, no, we do not have unanimous consent to debate our motion.
Yeah. We're not going to give you the entire day when you don't need the entire day for an opposition day. So no thanks. We will pass on that.
Yeah, I think something was definitely up, and the Conservatives smelled it, and that's why they essentially forfeited their opposition day. I don't know if they'll get it back. I honestly have no idea. This seems extremely unprecedented, but I think they suspected something.
And who knows? It may actually have something to do with the NDP opposition day. I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know. But the way the schedule is that Monday was opposition day for the Conservatives, Tuesday was for the NDP, and Thursday is for the Conservatives. So it's possible that Thursday is the day that we're actually going to see this. So
I guess we'll see.
But the Liberals, they're really mad that the Conservatives didn't put forth a motion to try and topple the Liberal government.
I don't know why the Conservatives would deny leave in order to be able to debate the motion they said that they wanted to debate today.
He also talks about wanting to hold an opposition day, but we gave him an opportunity today and he ran away from it.
This is a sick joke.
Why?